Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Lexa Peterson, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Captain Nick Tate. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Trooper Leslie Donald Turner, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of Northern Territory Christian College, Northern Territory. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is God by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed at the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Trooper Leslie Donald Turner. Leslie Turner was born in the New South Wales town of Gundagai on the 1st of April 1911. He was the second son and one of 6 children of Donald and Mary Ann Turner. After finishing school in Gundagai, Les, as he was known, joined the commercial banking company as a teller and bank clerk. Over the next few years, he was stationed in several towns in southern New South Wales, including Goulburn, Harden, and finally Cooma. After war broke out in September 1939, Les's brother Noel had joined the Australian Army and had been sent overseas. 2 years later, in July 1942, Les enlisted. Younger brother Cameron would follow in 1943. After initial training and a posting to Albury, Les Turner was sent to Darwin, where he was allotted to anti-aircraft reinforcements for the New Guinea Force. On the 17th of December, he sailed from Townsville to Papua, disembarking at Port Moresby on Christmas Eve 1942. He remained in Papua and New Guinea, serving with the anti-aircraft guns throughout 1943 into early the following year. In February 1944, Les was posted back to Brisbane, where he joined the 114th Light Anti-Aircraft Regiment. He remained with this unit until the end of January 1945. But then, with war's end in sight, for reasons unknown, Les was reassigned to the infantry. Whether the army simply posted him or he was bored and sought action, we don't know. After 3 months with the 32nd Infantry Training Battalion and 2 more at the Jungle Warfare Training Centre at Canberra, Les was again posted overseas. Arriving in Wewak on New Guinea's northern coast on July 18th, the next day, Trooper Les Turner joined his new unit, the 2nd 10th Commando Squadron. He was one of 39 new reinforcements the unit badly needed. Part of the 2nd 6th Cavalry Commando Regiment, the 2nd 10th Commando Squadron had been fighting for months in the gruelling Etape Wewak campaign, the fighting against a desperate but tenacious Japanese force had been especially intense and bitter. On the 5th of July, after being relieved by another unit, the 2nd 10th Commandos had moved to Cape Karawap, where regimental headquarters were located. They were about 30 kilometres up the coast, northwest of Wewak. The day Les arrived, a native patrol reported enemy troops occupying the village of Massawan, about 5 kilometres to the south. A 22-man patrol from B Troop set out to investigate on the morning of the 22nd of July. Led by Lieutenant Eric Lawler, they were all well armed with automatic weapons and grenades, but had only one Bren light machine gun. Apart from Lieutenant Neil Redmond and a handful of seasoned veterans, most were less experienced men on their first patrol, including Trooper Turner. Les carried an Owen submachine gun. It was hard going through rugged terrain and dense jungle. Progress was slow, and they arrived at the village of Suik before dark and settled into defensive positions for the night. Next morning, they moved out and made it to Massawan in a couple of hours. In later reports, the Australians felt sure that they were under enemy observation. The tiny village of Massawan sat atop a spur or ridgeline. The Australians approached cautiously, patrolling around the village where they found some abandoned posts and weapon pits. Scouts then informed Lieutenant Lawler that the enemy were at the far end of the village, dug in on either flank, waiting in ambush. The Australian commandos quickly moved to attack, using fire and movement tactics. One group went left, the other skirting right, but both were almost immediately pinned down by a hail of enemy machine gun fire. 6 men were hit, with which 4 were killed, including Lieutenant Redmond, Lance Corporal Ian Wharton, Trooper John Jeffers, and Trooper Les Turner. It was thought that the Japanese force was larger than the Australian patrol, and they had at least 3, maybe 4 light machine guns. To continue the attack seemed futile, so a withdrawal was ordered, covered by supporting fire. The survivors made it back to Cape Karawat before dark. 2 days later, following an artillery strike, another Australian patrol entered Maswan. The Japanese had gone, leaving 8 dead. Back home in Gundagai, Les's parents received the terrible news not long after one of his earlier letters had arrived. It was a devastating blow for the family. Les was remembered fondly by his friends and colleagues in numerous papers around southern New South Wales. One wrote, "It was impossible not to like Turner. He was a true friend, a good sport and a real man. For everyone, he had that cheery smile that fitted so keenly his happy and contented nature." Turner's body was initially buried in the field. Later, it was moved to Wee-Back and finally to the Leigh War Cemetery. Les was 34 when he died. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Trooper Leslie Donald Turner, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. on behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.